In this video, I'm gonna show you the full setup of Dolphin, the best Nintendo GameCube and Wii emulator for PC. This will be a complete setup guide including how to add your games, the best settings, how to apply cheats and mods, and how to import save files too, and more. So without wasting any time, let's get going. So the first step is downloading the emulator itself from the Dolphin website. The link will be on the description of this video. And on this page, you want to click here on download Dolphin for Windows, Mac, and Linux. Gonna take you to this page. You're gonna scroll down a little bit to where it says development versions, and you're gonna get whatever it is the latest version available, and then just click here on Windows x64. For using Dolphin, you need to have Visual C++ that you can get by just clicking here on this link. But if you played games on your PC before, it's likely that you already have this installed. But if you're not sure, you can just click here on this link and it's gonna take you to this page. So scroll down a little bit where you can see these links and you're gonna download one of these two. If your PC has up to 4 GB of RAM memory, you're gonna get the one that says x86. But if your PC has more than 4 GB, you're gonna get the one that says x64. So you can just download and install this program. And if you already have this installed, the program will tell you and we can proceed with the installation. So just go back to the Dolphin website and click on Windows x64 to download the emulator. When you download it, you're gonna see that the Dolphin file will be a zip one on the 7Z format. And you can use either WinRAR or 7-zip to extract this. I'm gonna personally recommend you to use 7-zip for doing this. I'm gonna put the link of that on the description of this video as well. And once you download and install that, you're gonna right-click on this file, select 7-zip or WinRAR depending on what you have, and then click on Extract here. When it's done, you're gonna see this folder showing up, and you can go ahead and delete the original zip file. We're not gonna need this anymore. So double-click on the Dolphin folder, and then you're gonna have the emulator files. But before starting the emulator itself, we're gonna create a portable file on this folder so that we have all the files for this emulator in one place. And for that, you're gonna click anywhere on this folder with the right button on your mouse to bring this up, and you're gonna put your mouse on top of New, and you're gonna select Text Document, and this file will show up. Now, you're gonna type the name of this file will be Portable, exactly like this. Now go ahead and press enter so that the file is in there. And now we can start the actual emulator. So double click on this Dolphin application to bring up the emulator. By doing so, it will create this user folder, and inside you're gonna see the folders and the files for this emulator all in one place so that you can move this folder later if you feel like it. And also if you want to install mods or plugins later, they're all gonna be on the same place. And of course, the emulator itself will be here. And that's when we're gonna start configuring this thing. The first thing we're gonna do is set the games directory, or the place where you want the emulator to scan for games. And I'm gonna go ahead and on the emulator folder, I'm gonna drop a couple of games that I have here with me. And this can be pretty much anywhere on your PC, but for this tutorial, I'm dropping these game files on the game folder to edit later. Now, you're gonna go back to the emulator, and right here on the middle or anywhere on this page, you can just double click in here, and it's gonna bring up this window, the emulator folder, which is also the place where I dropped my games, right? So now all I have to do is click on select folder, and my games will appear here. But remember, like I said, you can put your games anywhere on your PC and just set the emulator to scan for that folder and your games will appear. Now moving on, let's start with the configuration of the emulator. And the first one, you're gonna click on this config button right here to bring up this window. And our first stop on the general page, the first setting, enable dual core. This option is good if your CPU isn't that good. This option will help with the performance on weak CPUs, but if you have something like with at least 4 cores, you can go ahead and disable this option because it can cause some issues on your games. Now, right below that, you're gonna click on Enable Cheats so that we can add cheats and patches to your game. but that's later on in the video. I'm gonna show you that, but for now, just make sure this one is checked. That's pretty much everything for general. Now click on interface. What I want to point out here is this option, download game covers. That means that for every game you have on the emulator, it will find the game covers for you and just put it in there. So if you just click on this option, you have to change the presentation mode. So you're gonna click here on view and then click on grid view to change the format. And there you go, it already found all the covers for the games that I have. And that's it for the interface tab. On the audio tab, you don't have to change anything here unless you know what you're doing. So move on to paths. And because we selected the game folder before, it's already showing up in here, but you can add multiple folders as well. It does not have to be a single location. And you also have the option to search for subfolders. This means that if this option is on and you go back to your Dolphin folder, if you create a new folder here, like something like modded runs or region-specific games, and you have games in here, the emulator will find them as well. And there's no harm in activating this option. It just takes a little longer to find your games and stuff, but that's about it. No harm in having this option on. And that's it for the Paths tab. On the GameCube and Wii, you don't have to change anything again, unless you know what you're doing. Now on the Advanced tab, there's only one option I want to show you, which is the clock override. This option will overclock the CPU of the emulator, and this can be a useful option to use if your game is having trouble maintaining a steady frame rate. Especially on games that are originally 30 FPS on the actual hardware, and you're using a patch to make that game run at 60 FPS, the emulator might have trouble keeping that frame rate. And if you increase the CPU clock here a little bit, it's gonna help maintain that 60 FPS. But this one should only be used, like I said, if you're having trouble maintaining the frame rate, because it can break games and also cause glitches too. And there is no safe value here. This is gonna depend on the game you're trying to play. So for now, I'm gonna keep this one off. This would be a good time to subscribe to the channel and also leave a like on this video. And that's pretty much it for the config settings. You can go ahead and click on close. Now let's move over to the graphics settings. So just click here on the graphics button to bring up this window. And here on the general tab, the first option, you can choose your graphics API. And Dolphin actually has an official recommendation of what backend you should use depending on your GPU. I'm putting that on the screen right now, but it's basically gonna come down to between Direct3D 11 and Vulkan. I have used both APIs and the performance is pretty great on both of them, but it's also gonna depend on your game, of course, and I'm gonna show you how to find game-specific settings as well. But for now, you can pick between Direct3D 11 or Vulkan, even though I think Vulkan gives me slightly better performance though, but Direct3D 11 is also good. Now, right below that on adapter, of course, this is gonna be your main GPU. If you have a dual GPU setup, of course, I have a RTX 3070, which is pretty good for this emulator and also for modern games as well. So if you wanna buy this GPU or other general products, click on my affiliate link that is showing on the screen right now. Now moving on, under the aspect ratio, you have a few options in here. And I'm gonna go ahead and recommend you to use Force 16:9 because this emulator also supports widescreen patches. And on a lot of cases, we have game-specific widescreen patches that is even better than the widescreen solution that this emulator has. We're gonna get into that in a little bit. But if you wanna play their games on their original 4:3 aspect ratio, you can click on this one too. But that's gonna depend on the game, of course. Next, right below that, we have the VSync option, which is obviously to prevent the screen tearing that can happen on some games here on this emulator. In my case, I don't like using this one because I'm already using the VSync from my graphics card. And also, there's an option to start the game in full screen. But you can also activate this one by pressing Alt and Enter when the game starts. So I'm not going to activate these two. Now, on the bottom, the shader compilation, these options here are very important. By default, it's set to specialize, which is great for weak PCs. So if you don't have a really good graphics card, you can keep this option too. Not that this emulator is demanding or anything like that. In fact, this emulator is very well optimized, so the games are gonna run well even on older PCs, unless if it is a demanding game like Metroid Prime, for example. But if your GPU is somewhat okay, you can use the hybrid Uber shader options. This option is gonna help a lot with the shader compilation of this emulator, which means that you're gonna get minimal stuttering when playing your games. And even on PCs, like I said, that are not so good, you can use this option too with no troubles. But if you have a really good GPU, you can use the exclusive Uber shaders option. This option is gonna completely get rid of stuttering, but like I said, you need a really good GPU. In my case, for example, with the GPU that I have, if I use this option, I can play the game just fine with no stuttering, but I do notice that the usage of my GPU gets about 50 to 60%. So I would still recommend using hybrid Uber shaders because the stuttering is so minimal with this one, and like I said, it can still works fine on old PCs. And Dolphin does not have a minimal or recommended specs for the GPU. The website only mentions that your GPU needs to support one of these graphics APIs, but there is no really recommended GPU, right, for this emulator. And the only example that I can give you is from the GPU that I have. It is also a good idea to activate the compile shaders before starting option here. This is gonna help with the stuttering for a short time after the game starts, and the time that it takes to compile this before the game starts is actually just a few seconds really, so turn this option on as well. That's it for the general settings. Now click on the Enhancements tab, and on the first option right away, the internal resolution. Of course, the higher the resolution you select here, the better the game will look. But the higher the resolution, the more it's gonna require of your GPU. What you can do here is having your game running on native resolution, and as the game is running, you can keep increasing the resolution to see how it's going to look in game, and of course, if the performance is okay. On my GPU, the RTX 3070, I can play this at 8K 12x native resolution just fine. But of course, it's also gonna depend on the game too. But I don't go any higher than 6x resolution here. I think that looks good enough, but that's gonna be up to you. Moving on the anti-aliasing option, the best one to use is 8x SSAA. But this is also gonna require more of your GPU right here. So this is another option that you can experiment just like the internal resolution. Have the game running and keep selecting them until the performance is okay and until the game is looking good. Now under texture filtering, we have more options here, but for this one, for me, I always go with 16x anisotropic. This will make the game look better and it has minimal impact on performance. So I'm just gonna recommend this one here for most games. For the output resampling, you don't have to use any of these options here if you are increasing the internal resolution and if you're also using anti-aliasing. You can just keep this one on default and move on. For the color correction, you should only use this one if you know what you're doing. And also for post-processing effect as well. This one is just for fun, really, for experimenting. You have a bunch of effects here, and with your game running, you can just select one of these to see how it's gonna look, but this one is just for fun, like I said. Right below that, you can see the widescreen hack option that I talked about before. This is the solution of the emulator to patch the games into widescreen aspect ratio. But like I said, it is much better to use widescreen patches that were made for a specific game. Only if there isn't a specific widescreen patch, you should use the widescreen hack of the emulator if you want to play on the 16:9 aspect ratio. And that's pretty much it for the enhancement settings. Under the hacks tab, you don't have to change anything here unless you know what you're doing. Move on to the advanced tab, and in here the only options we're gonna change is right here under MISC. Go ahead and click on the first option, crop, because this is gonna help when playing games at 16:9 aspect ratio. Even with the widescreen patch, in some games, it doesn't actually fill the entire screen. You still see some black bars on top and on the side. So this option is gonna help with that. It's only a minor detail that it has to fix, so there's pretty much no harm in activating this option. Now, next to it, you're gonna click on Enable Progressive Scans. GameCube games look much better if they do have progressive scan support. And with this option on, the emulator will activate the progressive scan on the game if it does support. Now, below the MISC settings, we have the experimental section. And there's only one option here I like to point out. It is the manual texture sampling. This option will fix the vertical lines that some games have on this emulator. But you should only use this option if you have native resolution and also no anisotropic filter. Otherwise, you're gonna have a lot of visual glitches. And that's pretty much it for the graphics configuration. Click on close. But if you want a more detailed tutorial on the graphics configuration for Dolphin, I'm gonna recommend this video here from another content creator called Warped Polygon. He goes much more into detail on the graphics for Dolphin, and his video is pretty great. The link for his video will be on the description. Next, let's configure the controller. So you're gonna click on this controller's icon in here. I'm gonna start with the GameCube, and then we're gonna do the Wii remote controller. So right here on top, make sure you select Standard Controller, and then click on Configure. Now this window will show up, and by default this is gonna use your keyboard and mouse, and you can play on this emulator with your keyboard and mouse if you want to, but this emulator also supports pretty much all the controllers out there from PlayStation and Xbox, and even third-party controllers too. So if you're going to use a controller, under device, you're gonna click on keyboard and mouse, and you should see your controller listed here twice, but they have different input methods. Whatever it is the case, you should see one that says SDL0 and then the name of your controller. So select this one. Unfortunately, Dolphin does not have an automatic mapping function. You have to map each button individually. I'm putting on the screen right now the control scheme for the GameCube controller, so you can pause the video right now and do your mapping before we move on. And configuring this works pretty much like you press the button you want to configure with your mouse, and then you press that button on your controller or your keyboard if you're playing like that. And you have to do this for every button in here. Now go to this rumble section right here and click on this bar next to motor. This is for activating the vibration on your controller. It's likely you're gonna see these three options in here, but you only have to select the first one that simply says motor. So click on this, select, and if you click on test, and if your controller is working, you should feel the controller vibrating right now. That means everything is working fine. Now just click on OK, and that's pretty much it for the GameCube controller configuration. If you're going to assign a second controller, you just have to do the exact same thing here, but for port 2. Now let's move on to the Wii Remote configuration, and if you do have a Wii Remote controller with you, you can use this option here to use that on your PC. You need Bluetooth for that, and you can just click here on Sync and it will do the configuration for you. But if you're going to use a keyboard or a controller, click on Emulate the Wii's Bluetooth adapter and make sure that you select the emulated Wii Remote here, and then click on Configure. Now, once again, you can use your keyboard and mouse if you feel like it, or your controller. I'm gonna pick my controller once again with the SDL0 input, and since there is no automatic mapping function, you're gonna have to map each button individually. I'm also going to put on the screen a photo of a Wii Remote, so you can use that as a reference. Don't forget the rumble option too, same thing as the GameCube. Select motor, select the first one, click on select, click on test to see if it's working as it should be, and click on OK. Now we're gonna move over to motion simulator here, and I'm gonna show you the shake and point configuration because the tilt and swing options are pretty much the same, so you know what to do. First, starting with the shake, what I like to do here is just click on each one, the X, Y, and Z, and I press the left stick on my controller, so that when I press that button, it's gonna emulate the shake function on the Wii Remote, so you can pass through if the game is requiring you to do that, right? But this can be any other button on your controller. Now over here to point, because I'm using a controller, I'm gonna use the right stick of my controller. So up, press up on the analog, down, left, and right. So now I'm in control of the point here. But there is a setting on this emulator, because by default, you can see that it's going to point if I'm holding the right stick, right? Like this. But if you click on relative input, now you're gonna see that there is the black dot and the red one. The red is where the controller is pointing at, where the Wii Remote is pointing at, right? And the black one is my right stick. So if I just push this all the way to the top right side like this, it's gonna stay there, unless if I use the stick again and I can just freely control this like this. I prefer using this one for certain games like Mario Galaxy, but that's gonna be up to you. You're gonna have the option to do without the relative input as well, so you can just hold that position. That's gonna be up to you. And also, you have the option to use your mouse for the point controls. If you just click on this one, now my mouse is taking control of that. And this is just for the point controls. You don't have to change it here. You're gonna use your controller for everything else, but the point control is gonna be left to your mouse. But if you try this and don't like it, you just have to remap the controls again back here to your left stick, and they're gonna be as before. Now, since you know how to configure this, you just have to do the same thing for the tilt and swing controls if the game you're playing requires that, and if you want to do it too. Now, all we have to do is go to the extension tab, and we also have to configure the nunchuck options too. So I'm gonna put a photo on the screen so you can use as a reference for the C and Z button, and the configuration is pretty much the same. Just press and hold the buttons and then select them in here. And that's it for the controller setup. Click on close and close this as well. Now we're gonna go through how to add cheats and mods to your game. I'm gonna use Super Mario Sunshine as an example. So you're gonna click on your game with the right button on your mouse, and then you're gonna select Properties. This window will show up, and basically there are two places where you can put your cheats or patches: the AR codes and Gecko codes. And pretty much the only difference about them is the format, because the emulator supports both of them. So you might come across a code that's gonna work on the AR tab and also Gecko, but there is one difference between them. If your code has dashes, like this one, then this is a AR code. It has to go into the AR code tab. But if the code has no dashes, like this one, then this code will work both on the AR tab and Gecko code. Now back on the emulator, you can see that there is a bunch of AR codes for Super Mario Sunshine, and these are here by default. I didn't have to download them or anything. And there is also a few codes on the Gecko tab as well. And one way you can grab codes is by clicking here on this download codes option, but this one will not work for every game. For Super Mario Sunshine, if I go here and click on download codes, the emulator will find them and automatically add them here. And it's simple as that. So I have now a bunch of codes for the game, and to activate a Gecko or AR code, you just have to click on the box right next to the name, and the next time you boot up the game, they're gonna work. But in case the download codes option don't work, you're gonna have to do the thing that I showed you on Tomb Raider. In this case, for Mario Sunshine, for example, I'm gonna right click the game once again, and you're gonna have the option to go straight to the wiki page of the game. So you're gonna click in here, and it will take you to the game's page. And this is useful not only for grabbing the codes, but this is also where you can see if there are issues with this game on the emulator and how you can fix them. For Super Mario Sunshine, I already had a bunch of Gecko codes, right? But let's say I want to add this 60 FPS code. This is not on by default. And the first thing you're gonna check here is make sure you're getting the code for the same region of your game. I'm using the North American version of the game, so it is this code right here. Make sure you can see everything on this tab, And so you're gonna press and hold the left button on your mouse and then just copy all the stuff in here with the exception of this name. Do not copy this one because you're gonna get an error when you try to put that on the emulator. And with everything selected, right click in here and then select copy, or you can press Ctrl V on your keyboard. Now go back to the emulator, right click on your game, select properties, and the one code that I got works for both AR and geckos. I'm gonna select the gecko tab here, and you're gonna click on add new code, and this window will pop up. And you're gonna paste that code in here on the code window. So right click on that, press paste, or you can press Ctrl V, and you can also give a name to your code, which is a good idea to do in here. You can also add a creator for that code and also some description too, but that's not needed. Now go ahead and click on save, and now your code should appear on the bottom right here. And this one is already selected, so next time I start up the game, it's gonna work as it should be. On this same properties window, you also have the graphics mod tab, in which you can find more mods in here too. And you can see that I have this message saying graphics mods are currently disabled, and that's how it works by default. So if you want to use any of these graphics mods, you have to click on configure Dolphin, and you're gonna go back to the graphics configuration, and in here, you're gonna click on the advanced tab, look for the utility section, and you're gonna click on enable graphics mods. That way, you can now use the graphics mods in here and also some extra mods you can find. By the way, one place where you can get more mods for Dolphin is on this website right here, GameBanana.com. You can find a bunch of mods for Dolphin here, and I'll put the link on the description of this video. Now I'm gonna show you how to import a save file on your game. The first thing you need to check is if you already have a save folder of your game on Dolphin, and you can create that by simply saving in-game. So if you right click on your game and then select Open GameCube Save Folder, if you don't have a save file, you're gonna get this arrow right here. So you have to play the game up until you get to a save point, and once you save in-game, you can come back here and locate that. I already done that for my game, so I'm gonna right click on Super Mario Sunshine and then open GameCube Save Folder, and there you go. That's the save for the game. And one place you can get save files for GameCube games is GameFAQs.com. The link will be on the description as well. So right here on the page for Mario Sunshine, I'm gonna go ahead and click on Saves. And when you find your game, make sure you get it here from the section that says USB memory adapter. And of course, it has to be on the same region of your game. So I'm gonna get this first one right here. So just click on this download button and download this save to the save folder on Dolphin, of course. Now on the save folder location of this game, I have the save file I created and the one that I got from the internet. And this is the moment to make a backup of your original save, because you should only have one save file in here for your game. I don't care about this one, so I'm just gonna go ahead and delete this. And this is the 100% save file of your game. And you can also rename this, by the way. You don't have to keep the original name. You just have to keep the .gci extension here so that it shows up as a GCI file on type. That's how the Dolphin will read that. And that's pretty much all you have to do for the save file on a GameCube game. Now, for Nintendo Wii games, this one is gonna be a bit different, but it's gonna start the same way. First, you need to have a save file for the game you currently have. So I'm gonna use Super Mario Galaxy here and then click on Open Wii Save Folder. But because I didn't play the game enough, I don't have one. So go ahead and create a save file for this game. Now, with the save file created, right click on the game once again and then select Open Wii Save Folder. And the format for Wii games is a bit different. You have these two .bin files, but the only one that really matters is this one that says game data. So now I'm gonna get a save file for this game on GameFAQs. Here on the Super Mario Galaxy page, select Saves, and same as the GameCube, make sure it is the same region as your game where it says Wii Game Save File. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab this one, and just like the GameCube, put this save file on the same folder on the emulator. There you go, this is the 100% save file from the internet. I said to download to the same folder, but actually this one can be anywhere on your PC because we're gonna have to use the import function on the emulator. It's right here. On the emulator, select Tools, and then click on Import Wii Save. And now you just have to navigate to the location where your new save file is going to be. So this is the one that I got from the internet, and you can just double click on this one, and then you're gonna see this message saying to overwrite the save file, which means that you're gonna lose your original save file. So this is the moment to back up that one as well if you want, and then just click on yes, and in pretty much just an instant, you're gonna have your save file in there. So click on OK, and you're ready to go. Your save files are now in place. Now, another feature of Dolphin is that you can create a Mii character to use on your Wii games. And for that, first you're gonna click on the tools once again, and you're gonna highlight the Perform Online System Update option, and then you're gonna pick the region where you want to create your Mii as. This current region might be disabled for you, but that doesn't matter. You can just go ahead and pick one right here. I'm gonna pick United States, and it's gonna ask you to perform an online update. Click on yes, and it's going to download that. So for now, just wait until this is finished. There you go, the update is completed. So click on OK. Now you're gonna select Tools once again, but this time you're gonna click on Load Wii System menu and the version. So click on this one, and it's gonna boot up the Wii menu. And from here, you're just gonna proceed with your character creation. Give it a name, customize it, and then you can use it as if you were on an actual Wii console. I have many other tutorial videos like this on the channel, so if you like what you saw, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and check out my other stuff. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I'll see you soon.